You all right, ma'am?
I'm all right. You all right?
You all right?
I'm all right. You all right?
You all right?
Are you all right? It's been a bit of a rough time since the election. I know. And things are going to continue to be rough in a lot of ways. But fret not. We still have news to cover. Now, there's been a lot going on, and we got to go a little bit off the cuff this time due to time constraints. But the biggest and most obvious thing that's been happening since the election is, quite obviously, Nancy Mace. Now, you're all no doubt aware Nancy Mace has been causing trouble for the one incoming congresswoman who happens to be trans by making a big stink and causing a huge tizzy over a trans bathroom ban in the US Capitol. And, well, this post in particular is kind of special because, as you can see, it's posted by Chaya Rychek's outfit, Libs of TikTok, the stochastic terrorist organization, on Elon's Twitter. And one of Chaya's fanatic fans responded, "Which one is the real woman? They both look like men." And therein is the key. Because as we all have been saying all this time, the reason these sorts of bans are harmful to all women is because no woman is womanly enough. Anybody who doesn't like you will challenge you and make life difficult for you. It's, well, AOC put it better than I can. Watch this.
What Nancy Mace and what Speaker Johnson are doing are endangering all women and girls. Because if you ask them, what is your plan on how to enforce this? They won't come up with an answer. And what it inevitably results in are women and girls who are primed for assault because people are going to want to check their private parts in suspecting who is trans and who is cis and who's doing what. And so the idea that Nancy Mace wants little girls and women to drop trow in front of who? An investigator? Who would that be? In order, because she wants to suspect and point fingers at who she thinks is trans, is disgusting. It is disgusting. And frankly, all it does is allow these Republicans to go around and bully any woman who isn't wearing a skirt because they think she might not look woman enough. People have a right to express themselves, to dress how they want, and to be who they are. And if a woman doesn't look woman enough to a Republican, they want to be able to inspect her genitals to use a bathroom. It's disgusting. And everybody, no matter how you feel on this issue, should reject it completely. What are they doing? They're doing this so that Nancy Mace can make a buck and send a text and fundraise off an email. They're not doing this to protect people. They're endangering women. They're endangering girls of all kinds. And everybody should reject it. It's gross. Thank you.
Thank you.
It is gross. And AOC's correct. Nancy Mace has been fundraising off of this. Also, selling merch. Yay, capitalism. However, a lot of people are not on Nancy's side in this. And perhaps the best example is another viral clip from the last couple of weeks where an advocate confronted Nancy, which she then lied about later, but that's not important. But even though the crowd didn't stand up for the advocate, they responded appropriately to how Nancy spoke about it. Watch this.
But we have a lot of responsibilities too. Ro and I.
I'm sorry. You're living with that in real time right now. This is ridiculous. It is the day after Trans Day of Visibility. We have had dozens of trans people die this year because of the hate and lies that you are spreading. And if we want an internet, are we building an internet with free speech for everyone or just the privileged few? Are you going to stand up for the lives of trans people, black and brown people? Are we fighting for justice or are we fighting for big tech?
We respect freedom of
God
speech.
loves him, I love
That's
him,
right.
but his penis isn't going to be in my bathroom. So, at any rate, but we have a responsibility.
Yeah, Nancy, like most transphobes, particularly the grifter flavor of them, is obsessed with people's genitals. She has no idea if Evan Greer has had surgery. And it doesn't matter if she has, because it's none of Nancy's business. It's not anybody else's business what's in Nancy's pants. In fact, this is such a non-issue, or it should be, that even former President Trump agrees with us and not Nancy, or at least past President Trump. Watch this.
North Carolina, what they're going through with all of the business that's leaving and all of the strife, and that's on both sides. You leave it the way it is. There have been very few complaints the way it is. People go, they use the bathroom that they feel is appropriate. There has been so little trouble. And the problem with what happened in North Carolina is the strife and the economic punishment that they're taking. So I would say that's probably the best way. Do you have any transgender people working in your organization? I don't know. No? I really don't know. I probably do. I really don't know.
So if Caitlyn Jenner were to walk into Trump Tower and want to use the bathroom, you would be fine with her using any bathroom she chooses?
That is correct.
As much as it pains me to say it, past Trump is right. And that, of course, was in response back in 2016 to North Carolina's trans bathroom bill, which started off this entire trend. That's right. While trans people have always existed, see our Trans People in History series here on Transpositions for more on that. But this anti-trans politicization of using laws to try to oppress us in particular for political reasons, that's only been since 2016. That is what's new. And original flavor Trump, as deplorable as that man was, wasn't as deplorable as the mainline Republican just 8 years later. That's kind of scary, TBH. But if it's so non-controversial that even past Trump was against it, what are we doing, America? Now, the good news is there have been steps taken. As the wonderful journalist Aaron Reed reports, a group of trans people led by Chelsea Manning, the famous whistleblower, who is also a trans person, held a sit-in in the bathroom across from Speaker Johnson's office. Now, this is fantastic. This is exactly what I've been saying needs to happen, because Martin Luther King showed us the way. When you are not allowed to sit at the lunch counter, you occupy the entire lunch counter and you sit there until they realize they cannot erase you. If you're not allowed in the bathroom, you occupy the damn bathroom. And that's what happened. Now, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your perspective, they were told they would be arrested for sexual misconduct. They have been arrested. And pluses and minuses there, because they're going to look awful silly if that comes to trial. Because what exactly is sexual misconduct in legal terms? Well, there isn't really a clear definition from U.S. legal. Sexual misconduct in the law, it encompasses a range of behavior used to obtain sexual gratification at another, against another's will or at their expense. It can include sexual harassment, sexual assault, any conduct of a sexual nature without consent, or has the effect of threatening or intimidating a person against whom such conduct is directed. In what way is a person being in a bathroom an act of sexual assault against another person, or even an act of threatening? Who is being threatened? Which specific person has been harmed by anyone in that group sitting in the bathroom holding a sign? Or Sarah McBride using the bathroom. Does her washing her hands violate someone's consent? Is the sink part of someone's body? It doesn't make any sense. Now, that is a broad term, of course. Every state, every region is going to have its own specific laws detailing what exactly it is that we're talking about. So I looked up the District of Columbia's legal code to see what constitutes sexual misconduct. And shock and surprise, sexual misconduct is not a legal term in the District of Columbia. The closest we've got, and what the people making threats of arrest may have been talking about, is a sexual contact offense, which means touching with any clothed or unclothed body part, any object, either directly through clothing of the genitalia, various assorted body parts, with an intent to abuse, humiliate, harass, degrade, or arouse or gratify the sexual desire of any person. In other words, a person has to be specifically touched. And that isn't even sexual misconduct. That's just the closest we can come in what is actually in DC law. So they've been arrested on a charge that doesn't exist, and the closest thing that doesn't apply. Super job, I suppose. But they are making waves. They're bringing attention to the nonsense, and they're showing that we're not going to stand up for this. We will keep an eye on the story as it develops. You know there'll be more. Speaking of developing stories, as we have been talking about since early in this show's history, way back at the beginning of last year, Tennessee has another case coming to Washington, D.C. Tennessee, of course, has banned trans youth health care against literally everyone's recommendation. Parents are against it. State legislators are against it. Physicians are against it. Nobody likes this. But the state Republicans have forced it through anyway. It's been challenged in court, and now it's made its way all the way up to the Supreme Court. And even the fact the case is being heard represents another milestone for trans people. Watch this.
Next week, Chase Strangio will make history as the first openly transgender lawyer to make oral arguments before the Supreme Court as the justices consider Tennessee's ban on gender-affirming hormone therapies for transgender minors. The case argues the ban is a form of sex discrimination.
And that's an excellent case, because even though the Supreme Court currently has a conservative majority, this is the same Supreme Court who ruled in similar cases that discrimination against people based on gender identity constitutes discrimination based on sex. Because just like with the gay marriage issue, you cannot discriminate against somebody's gender identity without also factoring in their assigned sex, because otherwise there's no possibility for deviation from the expected norm. And this case is making ground. Erin Reed, whom we mentioned earlier, Erin in the Morning on Substack, you should definitely follow, subscribe, support her work, because she does damn good work. She is in the courtroom for these arguments, and she's been reporting on the progress. And so far, Chase has brought up the states' rights, the parents' rights aspect of this, which appeals to conservatives, saying that government should not be coming between parents and doctors in deciding what is right for children. And this is one area where the Republican forcefulness towards parents' rights actually may prove to be the good thing, the thing that tips the balance towards justice in this case. And additionally, Chase, not only making history as the first trans person presenting arguments, he's kind of kicking ass. Erin has reported that he has been presenting information that the justices did not know. Amy Coney Barrett, for example, did not know that the old cross-dressing laws were previously used to harass trans people, to jail us for no reason, to make life difficult for us. She, as a Supreme Court justice, did not know that, nor did the attorney for the other side, speaking on behalf of the Tennessee government, pushing this law on people who do not want it. He was not aware of this. His only defense was to invoke other laws that, as Justice Jackson pointed out, are not relevant to the case being discussed. So it's kind of hilarious, but also really sad that our country has come to this point where ignorant people are judging cases presented by incompetence, and only a trans person stands between us and total catastrophic stupidity completely taking over, at least in Tennessee. Although because this is the Supreme Court, it is definitely going to set precedent in some way, shape, or form. We can hope justice prevails. Perhaps it will. It's not a foregone conclusion, despite the fact that the court is stacked so heavily conservative. Decisions are expected sometime this summer, but as with everything else, we will keep an eye on it for you. Now, I don't want to leave you with just bad news. So I want to show you something cool that I discovered last week completely by accident. Just cruising YouTube videos, I came across a channel called Azeel, who interviews people in VR chat, which that's a whole thing in and of itself. You don't necessarily need a VR headset to participate in VR chat, though like all things VR, it's better if you do. There is a desktop version. There may even be a phone version. I'm not entirely sure because I'd never heard of it before. But in VR chat, there's a place called Trans Academy. And allow me to introduce you to this wonderful, magical world. Watch this. Hello and welcome to Trans Academy. This is an instance in VR chat, which ordinarily one would play in VR, but there is a desktop version, which is what I'm using here to record with. This is right at the entrance of the world. To join, you just have to install VR chat either on anything really, on Steam, on your headset, on some phones, whatever you've got. And you can wander around and engage with people. This particular thing is a specific world called Trans Academy within VR chat, and there goes a person right now. Now, this giant birthday cake in the center is because Trans Academy just celebrated their 2nd anniversary. I believe it was September 28th of 2022 when they set up shop, when the original director, Tizzy, noticed there are a shit ton of trans people in VR chat using the ability to create a custom VR avatar to express themselves and experiment with gender, see what they're comfortable with. And you can see they've got a whole bunch of the flags around the area. Obviously, here's the main academy building. Again, I am new here, so I don't know where things are. We're discovering this together. They do offer voice training classes. I was aware this was a thing. I've seen ads for it in the Discord. Also, they have a Discord. I can change the time of day. Ooh, potato, my favorite. We can teleport. There's a ship. Oh, I gotta go play on the ship. But first, HRT and coffee. I love it.
Can you see the reflection? Rouge. That tiny rouge.
No, I mean.
It's a pretty neat thing, and there's usually people hanging out because there's members all around the world, thousands of members. There's usually people hanging out in one instance. There are multiple instances of this thing, and they have regular gatherings. Moonlight Academy is one that's come to mind. That's Trans Academy. That's an instance where people come and they usually have a specific activity in mind. They'll do performances, they'll do TED Talk type things. It's really freaking cool. And if you want to find out more or join this community of thousands of trans people from around the world, you can find out more on their website, which is transacademy.org. And there's a link to join the Discord there. There's all a whole bunch of information, though even more information is available on the Discord. And yeah, I'm still exploring it, but it seems really, really cool. And at the very least, it's a place where those of us who are isolated, who aren't physically close to other LGBT people, other trans people, might be able to find community. And we need that more than anything in this age, because, well, as the Caring Crow puts it,
You all right, Mom? I'm all right. You all right? You all right? I'm all right.